moving on. So the team that probably most of our viewers would have been waiting for, and we are talking about Dhoni's men, Chennai. Last year, it did not go as well for them as they would have wanted. They had a change of leadership midway, and the tide sort of turned as soon as Dhoni took the reins again. But they still finished second to last. There was a big gap because of an injury. Deepak Chahar missed the complete season last time around. It had an impact to their performance. But other than that, Dan, based on their recruitments in the auction, do you think they have plugged in the gaps that were there last time around?
Being really honest, I am unconvinced that they've done enough to convince me that things are going to change between last year and this year. The only thing that I think that really gives them hope, in my view, is the fact that there's going to be a consistent captain, and we can rely on potentially some more moments of MS Dhoni genius with this group. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. There's probably, I want to say, 4 or 5 players in this 11 that I wouldn't want to recruit myself, or certainly not pay the prices that have been paid for them. I think that there's even gaps. I mean, look at the impact players. Probably a weaker group of impact players than most other teams. Now, since I sent this over as a potential starting 11, we're now finding out that Ben Stokes isn't fit to bowl. So essentially, you've got a guy who you spent 16 crore on, who is going to play as a specialist batter, probably will play because he's Ben Stokes, despite the fact that his T20 batting numbers show very little little logic that he's actually going to be an above average batter at this standard. So that's a big problem. It also means that Shivam Dubey and Moeen Ali are going to have to come up with 4 overs between them, and they're already lacking death pacer. And if they were going to use Stokes in that role, then they can't do that either. So, I mean, the death bowling for me fills me with dread. Where they're going to have to win. They're going to have to win matches in 16 or 17 overs, because bowl teams out in 16 or 17 overs, because the death bowling just isn't there. I mean, I would have no idea how to construct an over distribution for this team.
And that's where maybe Dhoni genius will come in. Yeah, good, Kiran.
For me, their problems begin with Ben Stokes. This might sound very absurd, because for a lot of teams, having a good all-rounder is the solution to most problems. But Chennai always have had all-rounders. If they play Ben Stokes, then they have to drop one of Pretorius or Moeen Ali, because I don't see the sense in dropping Devin Conway, because he's probably their best all-round batter who's good against spin and against pace. So, and again, where does Stokes bat? For me, the top 3 has to be Stokes, Ruturaj, Conway, because I think Conway can still bat at 3. I'm not so sure if Stokes can do that. And then outside of that top 3, their middle order looks very thin. Now, you could have Raidu, you could have Shivam Dubey, you could have Jadeja, and you could have maybe Moeen Ali, or instead of Moeen Ali, you could have Pretorius. Now, all these batters are, off late they have become more of cameo specialists. Ambati Raidu is not, barring that one innings that he had versus Punjab last time, he's not going to give you a season where he's going to average 35 plus. He's not going to give you that. And there is, if you get Conway out, and Stokes you can easily choke this team with pace, with high end pace bowling, back of length pace bowling. If Conway and what if 2 of the top 3 are dismissed early, because everyone then struggles against high end pace bowling. MS Dhoni, the batter, we don't know where he's going to bat. Probably number 8. They have depth, but how are they? How is that batting depth on paper going to translate in terms of usage is going to be very important, because all of their middle order, like I said, are mostly cameo specialists against uh, a favorable bowling lineup. None of them are the kind of batters who can do well against all kinds of bowling lineup. Someone like Jadeja can't really be your number 5, number 6 when you are playing matches in Chepauk, because he can easily be tied down with spin bowling. So there's that. Stokes also struggles against spin. So, and then what Dan mentioned, there is no express pacer and there is no potential wrist spinner as well in the first 11, because if you play a wrist spinner in the first 11, you probably have to drop one of Jadeja or one of the Indian paces, which is not going to happen. So there's that. Tikshana will play, so he adds some value in the power play. Their power play bowling is going to be better than what it was last time with Deepak Chahar being there. But then, uh, the question is, who do you play amongst Moeen Ali and Pretorius now that Stokes is not going to bowl? Because if Stokes was going to bowl, then you could have probably played Moeen Ali in Chennai, and outside of Chennai you could have played Pretorius. But now you can't really do that. So their bowling is a concern. So is their middle order. For them to have a good season, or for them to be in positions wherein they can win the games, they need one of the top three to always bat deep. Either Conway has to bat deep, or Ruturaj has to bat deep, or Stokes has to bat deep. I don't agree with Stokes being in the middle order because of the issues that I mentioned. And I remember when we were previewing England for the World T20, even Dan had mentioned that Stokes' best position is opening. So how they
Yeah.
get the pieces of the puzzles together is very difficult. It's one thing to get it together when you have the resources, but in this case, there's obvious lack of resources as well.
This was
Yeah.
almost what I think they're going to do rather than what, I agree with you, Gareth, is that I think Ben Stokes' best position is to open. Guys, I want to throw out a question as well. Potentially, they've got 5 left-handers in the top 6, top 7, and 4 in a row potentially from 4 to 7 in this team. That leaves them open to a lot of exploitation, I think.
Yeah, and
Hmm. Yeah, I mean,
not all of them are good versus spin anyway. Jadeja struggles versus spin, so does Stokes. Conway, like I said, is very. I feel that Conway is indispensable to this lineup, because he's the only one who can take on short of length pace bowling. He's very good versus spin. Uh, can play movement decently. Ruturaj is sometimes 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 he's struggling when the ball's moving around. So they there is only one batter. I mean, I don't see how, without Conway having a good season, how Chennai can go far in the tournament.
I actually think one practical way of having this 11 is to have a home 11 and an away 11, where
Yeah,
all the home games Conway plays and all the away games Stokes play. And this gives Stokes ample rest as well. Because, see, Chennai were the worst pace bowling unit last season in terms of economy. That got further exacerbated during the death over. And that was obvious because they were missing their primary Indian pacer. Uh, so that means that Pretorius has to play, in my opinion. Moeen Ali is a lock. Thiksena is a lock because he's essentially their top and tail bowler. So that leaves room for only Conway and Stokes. And the only practical way to arrange that is one more big void that they'll feel is that of Mukesh Chaudhary, who's ruled out due to injury because he sort of improved last season as the tournament uh, uh, went ahead. In my mind, Sumarjeet is the obvious replacement, but I think Dan has gone with Tushar Deshpande. Dan, do you think there is I mean, though they are close, or any particular reason you
Yeah,
would pick Tushar Deshpande ahead of Sumarjeet?
yeah, no, definitely. I think it's certainly a line call. Um, yeah, not much in it at all. It was one of those kind of decisions where you can toss a coin, probably.
Hmm. Yep. Who's that one player that they can't afford to lose?
For me, Jadeja all day long. Balances the team up. You need the spin, particularly with the home games in Chipawk as well. Probably one of the players you would expect to play a high strike rate innings down the order, win some matches, bring them back from impossible positions. Gun fielder, for me, just brings a complete balance to the team. If he's not fit for some reason, they've really got very little in the way of replacements. They would have to go maybe someone like Nishant Sindhu, who is still 18 years of age, as a kind of a like for like. And I think he's indispensable for this team.
Hmm. Gurpreet, for you?
For me, it's Conway, like I said, because like you mentioned, if Stokes is not going to play away games or maybe a set of games, then Conway becomes their only good batter, probably in the top five or top six, who is good against pace, uh, as well as against spin. So he's someone who can bind the innings together. For me, if Conway is injured, then they are in trouble because uh, then a lot of responsibility falls on Ruturaj's shoulders. To and Ruturaj is very good against spin, but I'm not sure if he can do the role that Faf used to do of shielding the lineup against pace. So for me, that is an issue. And someone like Conway did it very well for New Zealand in that game versus Australia as well, where he played, I think, 17 balls out of 24 by Zampa, because he knew that Zampa could really trouble the remaining batters, and he just took him upon himself to face Zampa and scored runs of it. So for me, Conway is very important for them.
How do you feel
Hmm.
about, let's say Conway was injured? Could they structure up with Stokes opening and bringing in Pretorius as a, say, five or
Pinch
six,
hitter.
like that?
I think if they're not going to play Stokes in a few of the games, it is possible that he may even play as a pinch hitter, because South Africa have used Pretorius in that role when they were playing versus India. In India, they used Pretorius in that role of coming in the power play and pinch hitting against pace. So Pretorius can do that role, but still, you'd still want one batter who's good against all kinds of bowling. If you have Stokes and Ruturaj opening, then if you can easily tie down Stokes with spin, if especially if Ruturaj is dismissed. You can't really tie down Conway like that with spin.
Mm. I sort of disagree with that because the way I see it is even if they're playing Stokes and Conway isn't in the team, if Ruturaj is dismissed, in walks Moeen Ali, who's as belligerent against spin as Ruturaj Gaikwad. So, in my opinion, the player that cannot lose is Deepak Chahar, because we already saw what happened last season when did not have him. Already out. If you take Deepak Chahar out of the 11, whatever is remaining of this bowling lineup just collapses. I mean, like Dan said, they'll have to finish games in 17 overs. If Deepak Char is not there, they might as well not go out to ball at all. Just ask the team that just give us the target, we'll try to chase it down.
Yeah, I mean they really struggled with power play wickets last time, so can understand why you say so, and it's the argument really has weight because else they already don't have Mukesh Chaudhary, so that means they're short of
Yeah,
another Indian pacer, and then they'll have to
yeah.
play probably both Simarjeet and Tushar Deshpande, and Tushar
Hmm.
Deshpande himself is a little high variance, so then it really puts a lot of trouble for them. For that, then they might have to play someone like Pathirana, which means that Tikshana might go out of the 11. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's understandable why you
It,
say
it,
that.
it, 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 it'll have a cascading effect, and the teams would know that there are just 4 overs from Theeksena where they don't have to lose wickets, and they can just have a party for the rest 16. Okay. Moving on, any other angles that you want to touch upon for Chennai?
I I sense that there is going to be a game where uh, MS Dhoni is going to sub himself out, especially when they're batting second. If he feels the pitch is really a difficult one to bat, or the ball's really turning, and he feels he's not in good touch, he's very capable of subbing himself out. He's that smart. So there is going to be that one game where I feel that MS Dhoni, after keeping, is going to sub himself out and probably send in another batter to, or use in another batter to just go out. And given how, when given how MS Dhoni's luck has been whenever he's taken these courageous calls, it might just be, that game wherein the player who's been subbed in actually comes in and gives an impactful performance, and everyone is left in awe of
Yeah.
MS Dhoni's brilliance and captaincy. Not that
Well,
Mm.
people aren't, but it might just be another feather into his cap.
that
I just
narrative,
think that it's going to happen.
and also I think not only is he smart, but yeah, these things kind of seem to come off more often than not. Or certainly he
Yes.
gets credit when they do and doesn't get the blame when they don't. But also with him, I think as well, he's a team man, right? If he thinks that him being subbed off is the best decision for this Chennai team, I think he'll do it. Whereas I think
Yep.
a lot of
Mm.
other people won't want to take themselves off as captain because they've got a
Yeah,
bit of an
because see, with other captains, it can also be perceived in a manner, oh, this captain doesn't want to leave with the front, lead from the front, right? You can have all ex-cricketers be at the actually, ask for that captain's head, that what kind of a captain is this one who really doesn't want to take the responsibility, etc., etc. But MS Dhoni doesn't have anything like that to prove.
no.
His record
Yeah.
speaks for himself. If MS Dhoni does it, it could also be, seen as an inspiration for other captains who are struggling. But if some other
Yeah.
captain does it, and the team loses, God forbid, God save that captain from all the outrage and the trolls and the memes on Twitter. But if MS Dhoni does it and it comes off, it would really set a very good precedent for captains who are struggling, because he doesn't have any pressure, he doesn't have anything to prove. So if there's one person who can actually pull it off, it's Dhoni.
Agree.
Yeah, I think there are two players in the globe right now who don't have a baggage of proving that they can lead from the front. One is Dhoni, and the other is and both. So no vacuum of quality leadership in that side.
The other is,
Uh,
sorry, the other is, I
are
missed
they
you.
your top four contenders? Stokes, Ben Stokes.
Uh, are they my top
Yep.
four contenders? I'd say very similar to, probably, I said 4 to 6 for Gujarat. I'd say 4 to 7 for Chennai, because uh, unlike Eden Gardens and Kolkata, Chepauk and Chennai are the best possible combination for as a home venue for any team. There is no other team which I think is that strong, or that has structured their 11 as per the conditions that are there at the venue. Because at Chepauk, Ravindra Jadeja, Tikshana, and Moeen Ali themselves, especially if they are bowling second, they are capable of bowling 10 overs amongst themselves, if not 12. They can really bowl 10 overs amongst themselves. So there is that. And then on that pitch, someone like an Ambati Raidu or Shivam Dubey, these batters don't really have to worry about the ball swinging or the ball bouncing or there being enough pace. They can actually take on spin bowling and do very well. So yeah, I think that Chepauk factor alone, given how well they are suited to that venue, uh, might be a huge factor if they are able to win 6 or even 5 games out of 7 there. Then they can surely win 2 games on the road, and we have seen teams qualify with 14 points for the top four. So for me, how they fare at Chepauk is very important.
Hmm. Dan, your thoughts?
Fairly similar. I definitely agree about the Chipotle factor. I think they're going to have to win minimum 5 matches there, if not 6. I'm more skeptical about 14 points to qualify now. It's 4 from 10 rather than 4 from 8. I think that you're going to need to go 8-6 at least to be in the top 4. Look, this is a team who I've continuously performs poorly when I'm modelling outcomes for this team over a number of years now, and yet somehow they often seem to miraculously pull these victories out of thin air. Whether it's the Dhoni factor, whether it's something else as well, maybe it's a bit of Chapor in the past.